All right, hey guys, so this worksheet is dividing numbers written in scientific notation. And this, once again, just like multiplication, there's going to be method 1 and method 2. So with adding and subtracting, we wrote them out, added them, and subtracted them. That was the easiest way to do it. With multiplication, you can write them all out and multiply them. Or there's kind of a shortcut way that we can use our power rules to kind of help us do it a little bit easier, maybe some of you may think. So it's going to be very similar to dividing. So method 1, we're going to write them out, we're going to divide them all. The most basic, just do exactly what it says. And we are going to learn method 2 on the next video or tomorrow. Once again, with these papers, you do not have to print them out. I cannot express that enough. I don't want you to stress that you don't have a printer or that maybe your printer ran out of ink or anything like that. So if you just have a piece of paper, you may want to pull these up for reference, like afterwards, these steps right here. Or the problems down at the bottom in the video, but you can just get out a piece of paper, maybe write dividing method 1, and then write the problems down. All right, so once again, I'm not going to fully read all the steps up at the top to you. I'm going to go ahead and just start solving the problems. So method 1 is the first thing we're going to do is write them in standard form. And then for dividing, instead of having the division symbol, we want to we want to rewrite that as a fraction. In my class, normally you see division like this. Some of the problems, I wanted to kind of give you a mix of them. Some of the problems are going to have the division sign. So just know that that's part of the steps up at the top, that you're going to rewrite them as a fraction to represent your division. So first things first, we're going to write the numbers in standard form. I have misplaced my pen. Give me a second. Oh, it's just like in the classroom. All right, so we're going to move the decimal 6 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the 5 is taking up one of those places. So just be careful that you're counting correctly. That means you're going to have 5 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we go put our commas in there, we have 1,500,000. So step 2 says that we're going to write the numbers on top of each other like a fraction. So 1,500,000 divided by, and then we're going to get this number. So remember, when you have whole numbers, a whole number has your decimal to the right. It's just like 3 whole dollars. It'd be 3 point. So we're going to move our decimal 3 to the right. If you start to the left, your number is going to be wrong. You're going to be dividing by the wrong number, and therefore your answer is going to be wrong. So just be careful with this. So we're going to move it 3 to the right. 1, 2, 3. We have 3 blanks. That means we have 3 zeros, and your number is 3,000. Okay. So we have 1,500,000 divided by 3,000. Now, if you set up your problem, lately I've really been liking this side work over here. If you set up your problem, 1,500,000 divided by 3,000, I think some of you are going to freak out. You haven't done long division in a long time, and this is just, you're going to be like, what, Miss Warfel, what are we doing here? So this is not what we're going to do. Instead, we are going to do a little trick. Okay, so let's think about 100 divided by 10. 100 divided by 10 is 10. Okay, let's think about, 1,000 divided by 10. That would be 100. Okay, and even 1,000 divided by 100, that's going to be 10. Okay, so if you notice, you have a lot of zeros here, and there's a little trick. So instead of doing looking at the whole thing, you can start canceling out zeros, every pair that you have, and then it makes your number smaller. You're breaking down those, it's kind of like powers of 10, okay? So you can cancel those out, and the real problem is 10 divided by 1, which is 10, okay? So if you look at the second one, there's one pair of zeros on the top and the bottom, and this really long problem has turned into 100 divided by 1, and we know anything divided by 1 is itself. Same thing for here. This time, however, there's one pair of zeros, there's two pairs of zeros, and 10 divided by 1 is 10. So this is kind of the trick of dividing that we're going to use, so we don't have to use some crazy long division. We are going to do long division eventually, but they're going to be smaller numbers that a lot of you are probably more used to than this craziness right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and start canceling out our pairs. So you can't cancel anything more than the pairs that you have. So the smallest number of zeros is 3, so that means we can only cancel out 3 pairs. So top and bottom, top and bottom, top and bottom. I kind of like to line up my zeros like this. You don't have to. Your slants will just be more to the side. Just make sure that you're crossing out 1 0 on top and 1 0 on the bottom. Okay, so now our new problem is 1,500 divided by 3. Now, there's a few, we're going to go over a few ways to do this. I'm going to start with doing, I'm going to start by showing you the long division. So the top number goes, I don't know, underneath the division symbol. And then the number you're dividing by goes on the outside. Now this is much easier to divide into. 3 doesn't go into 1, but 3 goes into 15 5 times. 5 times 3 is 15. You subtract. 15 minus 15 is 0. You bring down your first 0. 3 goes into 0 0 times. 0 times 3 is 0. You subtract. You bring down your second 0. 3 goes into 0 0 times. 0 times 3 is 0. You have no remainder. So our answer is 500. So we wrote our number in standard form. We divided. And our answer is 500. Now, the very last step, just like in adding, just like in subtracting and multiplying, we are going to write this number in scientific notation. So we need to create a number that's less than or equal to 1, but that's a lie. Greater than or equal to 1, but less than 10. So we know our decimal has to go here. Our first number is 5. Times 10 is always next, and then you're going to count from where the decimal was. It was 500, so we moved it 2 times. And if you want to check to make sure your answer matches your standard form, you start with 5, move it 2 to the right, and you'd get 500. So this is your final answer. Now, I'm going to show you a second way. So we've talked about how a lot of you have calculators at home or phones, and you can use this. So there's 2 different things you can do. You can start with the whole entire problem, 1,500,000. Let's check your zeros. So 1, 2, 3. That's too big. 1,500,000. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Divided by 3,000 equals 500. So you totally skip this step and get your answer. You can also cross out your zeros to get this problem and then put that in your calculator. Let's see if I can put both in the screen. So then you have 1,500 divided by 3 is 500. So either way, you get your answer. So you can do the little trick and then use long division to divide these to get your answer. You can start from the very beginning. As long as you write these in standard form, you can plug them into your calculator and get your answer. You can do the trick and then divide your smaller numbers into your calculator. There is literally multiple ways that you can do this to get this number. Then you have to know how to put it in scientific notation. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start with number 2. I think most of you could probably pause this video and finish this worksheet. Those of you that can't, that's perfectly fine. We're going to do some more together. But remember, you can always pause it and do it for yourself, see if you know what you're doing, and then just check your answers with the video. All right, so first things first, we need to write these out in standard form. So the biggest thing about this one is that you've got to make sure that your decimals are to the right of the number. So we're going to move this decimal 5 to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, you have 5 zeros. So your first number is 400,000 divided by 1, 2, 3, 2,000. Okay, so easiest thing you could do, if you want to do easy, well, that's fine. 400,000 divided by 2,000 is 200. Okay? We are going to also do it the long way because you are going to be in algebra next year and you may need to actually know how to divide. So we are going to do that. All right, here we go. Let's make this a little easier. Let's do our trick. So we're going to make this smaller. You're actually just reducing it by powers of 10. If you wanted to simplify this fraction, you're actually dividing by 1,000, dividing by 1,000, but canceling out the zeros is the same concept. Equals, so now we have 400 divided by 2. Now, most of you know what 400 divided by 2 is, but if you don't, we're going to do some long division. So remember, 400 goes underneath the division symbol. The divisor is on the outside. 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. You subtract. 4 minus 4 is 0. Bring down your first 0. 2 goes into 0 0 times. 0 times 0 is 0. Subtract. 2 goes into 0 0 times. 0 times 2 is 0. You have no remainder. So your answer is 200. So in our calculator, we got 200. Long division, we got 200. Most of you probably know 400 divided by 2 is 200. So I think this one was a little bit easier. All right, so now that's literally it. The next step is just converting, the very final step is just converting this to scientific notation. So our answer is 200. We know we have to create a number that's equal to or greater than 1, but less than 10. It's got to be a one-digit number. So our first number is 2. We know times 10 is always next. And then we figure out the exponent is talking about how many times did the decimal move. It was originally here because it was a whole number, and it moved 1 2 times. And it stays positive because 200 is greater than 1. It's a large number, so it stays positive. Or if you're converting this back to standard form, you'd have to move it 1 2 to the right to get 200. So whatever way you want to think about it, that is your final answer. Okay. Once again, I think most of y'all are good. I would go ahead and try these on your own, but if you're not confident, then you can kind of keep doing them with me. All right, so number 3. First step, we got to convert these numbers into standard form. So we're going to move that decimal 8 to the right. Sorry, it's a little... That's a little better. All right, so 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the 5 is taking up one of those slots. I mean, we have 7 blanks, so it's going to be 7 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've been liking to put my commas in here to kind of get the number. So we have hundreds, thousands, millions. So we have 250 million. Remember, we want to change it to a fraction. It makes it a little bit easier, I think. Divided by 5 times 10 to the 4th. So remember, you want to start with your decimal to the right. And 1, 2, 3, 4. That means we're going to have 4 zeros. And that is 50,000. 1, 2, 3, 50,000. You don't have to line your division up any type of way. I kind of like to put the zeros on top of each other because I'm going to cancel them out. So you have two very large numbers, 250 million divided by 50,000. Let's do our trick. Cancel out your zeros that are on top of each other. Make sure 1 0 on top, 1 on the bottom. You're going to rewrite what you have. So now we have 2, 5, and 3 zeros. So that's 25,000 divided by 5. All right, this problem is a little longer, I guess. So I'm going to have to move it down here. So let's get our scratch paper. So we have 25,000 divided by 5. 5 can't go into 2, but it can go into 25. So 5 goes into 25 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. You subtract. 25 minus 25 is 0. And you bring down one number at a time. Now, most of you probably see a pattern. 5 goes into 0 0 times. 0 times 5 is 0. You're going to get zeros every single time. 5 goes into 0 0 times. 0 times 5 is 0. And your remainder is 0. So 25,000 divided by 5 is 5,000. All right. Now, calculator time. So if you would like to start with your problem, you can. 250 million, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Always check and make sure you have the right number of zeros, that's right. Divided by 50,000, 1, 2, 3, is 5,000. That's the answer we got. If you would like to do your first trick step and then use your calculator, you can also do that. 25,000 divided by 5 gives you 5,000. It doesn't matter how you do it. You can do it the long way. You can do it the short way. My advice is doing it the longer way because, like I said, next year you're going to algebra. You're going to need to know how to multiply, divide, add, and subtract. So this will be helpful, but I can't monitor what you're doing right now. So you get to use a calculator if you want. Last step is we want to convert 5,000 into scientific notation. So we need a number between 1 and 10. It's got to be less than 10, but it can be equal to 1. Remember, we can't put it here because that's 500. We can't put it here because it's 50. It's got to always go right after that first digit. So our first number is 5. We know for scientific notation, times 10 is always next. And then we got to figure out how many, if the decimal was originally here in 5,000, how many times did we move it? And we moved it once, twice, 3 times. Then you need to check to see, are these going to be the same? And if I put my decimal here and move it 1, 2, 3 to the right, that would be 5,000. So these answers are the same. You want to keep your exponent positive because 5,000 is a large number. It's greater than 1, so you're not going to have a negative exponent. So 5 times 10 to the third power is your answer. All right, so like I said, if I were you, I would pause this video, do 4, 5, and 6. You're probably going to get your answers right, especially if you're using a calculator. It's really not too difficult, I don't think. But we're going to go ahead. I'm not going to pause. You can pause. You can pause on your video if you want to do that. All right, so first things first, we got to convert them to standard form. So that means we're going to move the decimal 9 right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's going to be a large number. 8 is taking up one of those places. That means we're going to have 8 blanks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 zeros. So 2, 8, and 8 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Put your commas so we can know what we're dealing with here. So hundreds, thousands, millions, billions. So we have 2,800,000,000 all divided by, hopefully we're getting really confident with this. We've been doing every day for almost 2 weeks now. We need to place our decimal in the whole number and it always goes to the right. 7.0 would be 7. 0.7 is going to be too small. And we want to move it 3 to the right. 1, 2, 3. That means divided by 7,000. Now, you can put your 7 here and cross out these zeros. I personally like to do it at the end, so it doesn't matter. That's how I like to do it. It is some of you want to do it in the middle. It doesn't matter. All right, so we have 2,800,000,000 divided by 7,000. So instead of making this long division like this, which would be a headache, we're going to simplify it a little bit. So these zeros cancel out. So now our new problem is 2,800,000 divided by 7. And we can do that with long division. All right, so 2,800,000 divided by 7. 7 can't go into 2, but 7 can go into 28. It goes into 28 4 times. 4 times 7 is 28. 28 minus 28 is 0. Now this time you just have to be careful that you bring down all of your zeros, because there's going to be a lot of them. I'm not going to, oops, the pen's too long. Then we've used all of our zeros. We have a zero remainder, and our answer is 400,000. If you've noticed, when you're dividing with long division, the problems are pretty easy when you start to divide. The 7 goes, your first number goes into this number pretty easily, and then as long as you know how to deal with your zeros, then you should be pretty good. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you couldn't see the whole thing. All right, so 2,800,000 divided by 7 is 400,000. So that's way with number 1. Some of your parents are probably going to make you do it that way. I think that's great. The second way is to use your calculator. So you can either start from up top. So I'm trying to get everything in the screen. So 2,800,000,000. Let's see if my calculator will hold that. So 8, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yes, it's just big enough to hold that large number. Remember, if you're using your phone, you can turn it to the side and it'll make your screen a little bit longer if you can't fit in all those digits. Divided by 7,000, and we got 400,000, just like we got by hand. If you want to go ahead and do the trick to make your number smaller to fit in your calculator, you can also do that. 2,800,000 divided by 7, you get 400,000 again. So once again, doesn't matter how you do it, you just need to make sure you can get 400,000. Very last step is we have to write this in scientific notation. We know we need a number equal to or greater than 1, but less than 10. So we know we're going to put our decimal here. So our first number is 4. We know scientific notation always has times 10 in the middle. Then you're going to figure out how many times you moved your decimal. It was originally here, and we had to move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. If you would like to check to make sure it's the same, you can put your decimal back where it was and move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. That's going to give us 400,000. It's the very same thing. You also want to make sure you keep this positive because 400,000 is a large number. So your answer is 4 times 10 to the 5th power. All right, 2 more. So once again, pause it, try it on your own, and then check and see if it's right. So the first one, we're moving the decimal 4 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Means our first number is 81,000. Divided by, we want to move this one 2 to the right. So remember, you're not starting here and moving 1, 2. It's not 90. You're starting to the right and moving it twice. It's 900. So this should be a little bit of a shorter number. 81,000 divided by 900. You're going to cross out your zeros. Your new problem is 810 divided by 9. That should be pretty easy. So let's do 810 divided by 9. 9 doesn't go into 8, but 9 does go into 81 9 times. 9 times 9 is 81. Subtract. Bring down 1 0. 9 goes into 0. 0 times 9 is 0. Subtract. There's no remainder. So your answer is 90. All right. You can use your calculator. So I'm going to start with 81,000 divided by 900. You get 90. If you want to do the little trick and shorten your problem, you have 810 divided by 9, and you get 90. It doesn't matter how you do it. You're going to get 90 either way. All right, so your answer is 90. The only thing that we have to do is write this in scientific notation. So 90 is too big. It is a number greater than or equal to 1, but it is not less than 10. So we know we have to put our decimal after that first digit. So our first number is 9. Times 10 is always next. Now, some of you are going to kind of freak out about this one. You're like, oh, I don't know what my exponent is. Well, it can't be 0 because this is not the number. Okay, we have to actually move it. How many times did it move? It moved 1 time. Also, 90 is a number larger than 1, so we know that this has to be positive. You can check your answer by putting your decimal back behind the 9 and then moving it 1 right, which would make 90. Or you can even think about this. 10 to the first power is 10, and 10 times 9 is 90. So there's multiple ways that you can check your answer and make sure that it makes sense and that it is equivalent to 90. So that is your answer for number 5. And your very, very, very last problem. All right, so for this one, why sometimes the color changes. All right, so for this one, just make sure that you are starting to the right of these values when you're moving your decimal. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make the color not be so gray. All right, so we're going to move it 6 right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means we have 9 and 6 zeros. That is 9 million. Remember, we want to create it as a fraction. It's a little bit easier to divide that way, in my opinion. We're going to have 3 divided by, or my bad, we're going to move it 6 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So divided by 3 million. Go ahead and cancel out your zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this makes it very easy. 9 divided by 3. What is 9 divided by 3? 3. We don't even have to use long division. If you want to look at your calculator may be large enough to fit this number. 9 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros divided by 3 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. You get 3. Now, I think the only problem with this one is that some of you are going to be confused on how to write it in scientific notation, but I don't want you to overanalyze it. I just want you to think about the steps. We need to create a number between 1 and 10. It's got to be less than 10, but it has to be equal to or greater than 1. So we're going to ask ourselves, can I put it in the front of 3 to the left? Well, 0.3 is like 30 cents, and 30 cents is less than $1, so we can't put it there. We have to always put it to the right. So 3 is our first number. We know times 10 has to be in the middle. Now, 3 is our answer. Do we need to move the decimal at all? No. We don't need to move it 1 right. That would make it 30. We don't need to move it 2 right. That would make it 300. We don't need to move it 1 left. That would make it 0.3. The answer is 3. So we move it 0 times. So this is our final answer. Now, let's think about our power rules. For 1 second. This will be the last thing we talk about today, to just make sure that these things are equivalent. So 3 times 10 to the 0 power. Well, when we were learning about power rules, what is 10 anything to the 0 power? I hope a lot of you are saying 1 right now. That's 1. And what's 3 times 1? 3. They're the same. They're equivalent. And the reason that this looks a little funny is because scientific notation was not made for the number 3. It was made for numbers like 3 million, 3 billion, 0.000000003, really, really, really big numbers and really, really, really small numbers. However, you can write every single number in scientific notation. So hopefully you guys now understand how to divide numbers written in scientific notation. I personally like this method. I think after being with me for 3 entire 9 weeks that, I like to write my stuff out. You can always write your answers in scientific notation. The division really isn't bad, especially if you're using your calculator. So this is personally my favorite method. However, tomorrow, or if you just watch this next video, I'm going to teach you another method, which is going to be kind of like the tricks method. We're going to use some power rules. And so if you didn't like this method, hopefully you'll like the next one. Remember, if you have any questions, if you have any questions, if you're confused, you can email me. You can message me via Remind, which is what I kind of prefer. But some people are using Teams. You can always message me via Teams, and I get an emails to help you with that. So literally there's a million different ways you can contact me. If you have any questions, you can always rewatch this video and try everything again. It's totally up to you. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're learning. I hope you're not getting overwhelmed. I try to give you just a little bit at a time and make it pretty explain it pretty easily, I hope. So that's it. I hope you have a great day. I will talk to you soon. Bye.